You are in the temple of the rants, where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You can get one of these by being one of those. This one's for Sumo Agogo, who says, "Hi Digibro, my rant request for you is about the YouTuber E:'R, or ER as in saying, and a couple of questions. 1. Have you watched any of ER's content, and if so, what are your thoughts about it? 2. Do you think his style of comedy, which is either cynical or edgy, is rare in the wake of the current YouTube restrictions? 3. He states that the Steven Universe fandom is worse than the MLP fandom. Your thoughts? 4. Finally, I don't think you have a full in-depth review or analysis video on why the original Steins Gate anime is amazing, and ER always wanted to make a video about it. Would a collab be impossible? He always lurking in the comment section on his YouTube or Twitter account. If you call him, I think it would be awesome. Thank you, Digi. Congrats on the move. P.S. If you watch this video, you get the gist of his content." And he links to part 4 of his video series on The Legend of Korra. I had not watched any of ER's content until this point. I watched some of this video, and honestly, I found it pretty, pretty mediocre. I mean, it's another guy complaining about stuff on the internet. Like, this is what everybody's doing. It's similar in many ways to my content. He's complaining about a sequel to a beloved series, talking about all the reasons that the sequel's not as good as the original. I didn't think the points he was making that I saw were all that interesting. It was kind of stuff that you could probably conclude on your own. If you didn't like Korra, you would probably think of these reasons for why. There's a lot of interruption of just like gags of like memes or clips from movies that I didn't think were funny and just kind of made me wish that the video would just make another point. I don't really want to have to sit through all this other stuff. His delivery's not terrible, but I don't like the way he mixes his voice to have too much like bass, and it sounds a little compressed. I'm just not a fan of that style of audio manipulation, I guess. But more importantly than any of that, I mean, ER, I think what he's basically known for and the reason he's popular is that he's a very, very anti-SJW, and he clearly chooses to talk about things because of the fact that they have a strong SJW following. Very similar to something like H. Bomber Guy for the opposite end of the spectrum. Somebody who, is an SJW talking about things that the alt-right cares about. He's doing that same type of appeal, that type of, like, I'm a part of this tribe, we hate the other tribe, your anger is going to drive my view counts, So, I don't know how cynically he's doing it. I mean, I'm sure he really does feel the way he feels about them, but, like, to me, it's just kind of trite. Like, I don't need more people talking about what's wrong with SJWs. Like, now, granted, I hang out with guys like Dick Masterson. I myself am clearly pretty anti-censorship, identitarian politics and stuff like that, even though I probably fall way more in with the SJW crowd than anybody else who is against that kind of stuff. But, like, I just see it as, like, when it comes up naturally, when it's just that you are a person on the internet trying to enjoy yourself, and then something happens that pisses you off because of its politicization, and that natural, like, anger causes you to just go on a tear about it, that's one thing. When you're going out of your way to assume the identity of the anti-SJW guy and all you do is talk about that shit, that is boring as fuck to me. Like, that's a really boring identity to have, to complain about people because they're complaining, and then the other side, it's also boring for them. Like, that's why I don't follow H. Bomber Guy anymore. I'm bored of that. I'm bored of people just constantly being all about their team and all about fuck the other team and fighting this internet war and all the call-outs and all that bullshit. Like, again, if it's tied to something that's current or interesting, I'm not gonna, snub my nose at any mention of this kind of stuff. But, like, when your whole identity is I review stuff SJWs like so that I can shit on SJWs, like, my fan base is obviously predetermined. Like, I will definitely get views by doing things this way. It's like, I don't know, it feels kind of cynical to me. So that's just the kind of impression I get. I think his content is it's fine. It's obviously going to have the audience it has. Like, people who feel the same way he feels are going to love these videos. Anybody who doesn't feel that way is going to hate these videos. It doesn't really matter how interesting or how deep his critical analysis is. I think it's fine. It's not like I wasn't like learning anything new about Legend of Korra and why it's bad. Now, granted, this was part 4, which it seemed like it was mostly. It seemed like it would have been part 1, because it seemed like he was just talking about like the overarching basic flaws of it. So I don't know if maybe the other 3 parts were him picking apart on a more like case by case nuanced level. But yeah, I don't know. It seemed pretty average to me. He states that the Steven Universe fandom is worse than the MLP fandom. I don't know enough about the actual fandom of Steven Universe. I mean, I've heard some heinous shit, but I actually lived the MLP fandom, and I lived some heinous shit there. So like, it's hard for me to say. I can't. I only have a lens into one of them, and I'll just tell you, any fandom is a problem. Like, anytime a group of people comes together over the fact that they all enjoy a thing, and then they create a community out of that that has nothing to do with the thing, or that is extrapolating on the thing in order to promote a set of values that they believe in that is not necessarily the same as the thing. It's just going to get messy. I mean, it's just people finding a way to have a club. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a toss up for me. I mean, Steven Universe fandom is certainly a lot more prominent now, and like way more tied into the SJW culture, which was only kind of fledgling at the time that Bronydom was becoming a thing. I think Bronydom was more of first of all, more of an autism thing, and second of all, more of a awakening thing, especially for like trans people and people who were exploring other sides of themselves or their sexuality or even their masculinity, and finding some affirmation. It was much more of a like identity discovering kind of thing, whereas Steven Universe is maybe more identity placating. But this is just very broad brush I'm painting with here. As for doing a collaboration, I can't say I'm terribly interested, just because I'm not like I'm not like immediately drawn to his content, and I also don't really do collaborations. I don't think I've done a single collaborative anime review ever. So, I'm not suddenly going to start today. I dig I dig that he has a Shiro from Log Horizon Avatar. I feel like I talked a lot about what made the original Steins Gate good in my Steins Gate Zero video. I don't think I have any really, I don't have, a lot more thoughts about it. I don't have... I talked about the first episode really extensively back in the How to Recognize a Great Anime in Just One Episode video, and, I feel like I've more or less made my point about Steins Gate altogether. I don't think there's much more I need to say about it, so... hopefully that's not disappointing to hear, but I'm not gonna. I don't really have strong feelings about ER one way or another. I'm not somebody who's gonna hate his guts because of his politics, but I just find that kind of shit boring and rote at this point.